Recently, Bill Maher made some staggeringly ignorant remarks about Stan Lee and his legacy. This is how he tried to portray Stan Lee, just to sum up this man and his career. America is in mourning, deep, deep mourning for a man who inspired millions to, I don't know, watch a movie, I guess. That's it. He then goes on to say, when I was growing up, comics were for kids. When you grew up, you moved to the big boy books without the pictures. And then 20 years ago, something happened. Adults decided they didn't have to give up kid stuff. They have no idea what he's talking about. And then he said, I don't think it's a huge stretch to suggest that Donald Trump could only get elected in a country that thinks comic books are important. President Trump got elected because of the failings of Hillary Clinton. Stan Lee had absolutely nothing to do with that. There's just so much wrong with these comments. And for a man his age, this is a man in his 60s, to be so absolutely clueless of the culture and the legacy of Stan Lee. If you go back thousands of years to Greek mythology, you have stories of men with superhuman strength. You have multi-headed beasts. You have Medusa, a woman with snakes for hair that can turn people into stones. Stan Lee is just one author of many that have contributed to this history of mankind that's gone on for thousands of years. The epic with the unlikely, reluctant hero, the battles of good versus evil, and also bringing about so much imagination and new characters, so much creativity, like we had with Greek mythology. You look at religion, you get these same fables, same stories. In the Bible, you get Samson with his incredible strength. You have Jesus raising people from the dead. He also had sandwich powers. He could turn a little food into a lot of food. We see it in sci-fi, aliens coming from other galaxies, other planets. We see it in horror with the inventions of vampires and zombies and witches. So this is, once again, something, these stories have been going on. Stan Lee has been a very influential writer, and following that legacy and then bringing characters with supernatural powers into the modern world. These characters that worked and lived in skyscrapers and lived in metropolitan areas. And why would he deserve any less respect than J.R.R. Tolkien and The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings? And once again, these epics, good, evil, these struggles between the two, or J.K. Rowling and her Harry Potter series. And when you look at the history, he says, who inspired people to, I don't know, I guess, watch a movie. Is he blaming Stan Lee for technology? So when you look at early mythology, it was told orally from generation to generation. Then you go to print, where you have people agreeing on exactly what these stories are, having it in print, having it copied, distributed. You go from that to being able to have graphics on paper. So then you get to your comics, or you have pictures to go for the words. The progression from that is to have television shows, movies, where you can bring it live on the screen. And the history of comics actually goes way back before Bill Maher was born. If you're looking at the first Superman comic, you're looking at 1938, first Batman 1940, first Captain America 41, Spider-Man, Hulk 1962. You had a comic. You didn't have a television series. You didn't have a movie because the technology wasn't there. 15 years later, after 1962, 15 years later in 1977, you get a television series on Spider-Man, which was horrible. Here's a clip. Try not to throw up.
For the first time on the screen, you'll see it all. The spectacular adventures of the amazing Spider-Man. You've heard about him. You've read about him. Now, you'll see him in action.
Kill him.
No challenge is too great. No enemy is too strong. The most popular, most daring, most exciting superhero in the entire world. At last, he comes alive for his most incredible adventure. Now, Spider-Man.
In 2001, you have the release of the first Harry Potter, the first Lord of the Rings. In 2002, you get the first real Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire. Now we have the technology where we can actually have these characters, these universes on the big screen, and they're amazing. I mean, the technology that's advanced in movies and in cinema is absolutely incredible. What we can project now and what looks absolutely realistic, and it no longer looks horrible like it did in the 1970s. And Stan Lee, once again, he's just continuing the legacy that's gone on for thousands of years, the legacy of the epic, the reluctant hero, Peter Parker, not doing anything to stop a criminal who then goes on to kill his Uncle Ben. And then he realizes with great power comes great responsibility. And in these epics, you do have these moral stories for people to pick up and add to their morality. And Stan Lee has been a fantastic part of continuing that. And why is Bill Maher just focusing this crap on Stan Lee? What about the DC universe? What about all the other movies? What about the really popular television show The Walking Dead? Is he complaining about all that too? Oh, zombies aren't real. Those are for kids. You shouldn't watch that stuff when you're an adult. Boy, he just sounds like a real fun guy, doesn't he? I mean, these comments were just so petty and miserable. There's no excuse for it. And a lot of people are kicking Bill Maher's ass for making these staggeringly ignorant comments about a man who's done so much, who's such a big part of our culture, and who had good stories. The good guys were the ones to root for. And there was a reason for that. There was a definition of what a good guy was and what a bad guy was. The difference between someone who's out to help people, watch over people, protect people against people that are out to hurt people. And this is important for any culture to have these stories and understand the difference and understand, yeah, you should be the good guy. You should be rooting for what's good. You should be out to help people. So Stan Lee, obviously, so many characters, so much creativity, so much imagination, so many great epics that he's just part of that list of great storytellers, great writers. He was awesome. He is awesome. He'll always be awesome. This is Jim Wall. Thanks for watching. Until next time.
Cisco, do we have to leave all our good friends now?
Only until next time, Pancho. Adios, amigos.